I was always the first one in and the last one out at Evergreen Solutions. 12 years of that quiet rhythm had become my signature. While others drifted in with their coffees and left at 5 sharp, I stayed behind to make sure the world didn't fall apart. My name was rarely on the big slides, but every smooth client delivery, every crisis quietly averted, every polished report that made the directors look brilliant, it was my doing. They called me the backbone of the operations team. I didn't mind carrying the weight. What I minded was being treated like furniture, useful, silent, and easily replaced. My boss, Victor Lang, was the face of Evergreen. Charismatic in meetings, quick with a firm handshake and a confident laugh. To clients, he was the visionary leader who had scaled the company from a small consultancy to a respected name in supply chain management. To me, he was the man who took credit for my late-night fixes, nodded absently when I flagged risks, and promoted people who reminded him of his younger self, loud, flashy, and eager to please. I had joined when the company was still finding its feet. I built the tracking system that became our flagship product. I trained half the current team. I remembered every client's quirks, every vendor's red flags, every process that kept deliveries on time when storms or strikes hit. Victor liked to say, "We're a family." But families don't forget your birthday for 8 straight years or pass you over for promotions while rewarding golf buddies. Lately, the atmosphere had grown heavy. Victor brought in a wave of new consultants, mostly young, confident men with impressive LinkedIn profiles and very little field experience. They spoke in buzzwords and moved with the certainty of people who had never been truly tested. I tried to guide them, sharing years of hard-earned knowledge, but they treated my input like optional advice from the office ante. Victor started skipping our regular check-ins. Important strategy meetings happened without me. I caught whispers in the hallway that stopped when I approached. One afternoon, I overheard him telling the head of HR, "She's been here too long. People like that get set in their ways. We need fresh energy." I said nothing. I simply kept working, tightening every loose thread before the biggest client review of the year. The Anderson Group contract was worth millions. Every forecast, every risk matrix, every contingency plan rested on the systems I had maintained and refined for over a decade. No one else knew them the way I did. The termination meeting came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Victor and HR sat across the polished table, faces carefully arranged. "We're restructuring," Victor said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Your role no longer aligns with our new direction. We're bringing in specialized teams for efficiency." I listened in silence as they offered 3 months severance and spoke about appreciating my contributions. No mention of the nights I had stayed until midnight, the weekends I had given up, the clients I had saved from walking away. I slid my company laptop across the table. "Everything you need for the Anderson review is there. It's ready." Victor looked relieved. "Good. We'll handle it from here. We trust you'll leave this professional." I smiled faintly. "Of course." As security walked me out, no one met my gaze. The elevator doors closed and I stepped into the gray afternoon. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply walked to a small cafe 2 blocks away, ordered tea, and waited. 10 minutes later, my phone began to buzz. First came the confused messages from the team, then the frantic calls. The Anderson presentation system, carefully built over months, was suddenly throwing access errors. Files were visible but locked. Reports wouldn't generate. The live dashboard everyone relied on for the review had gone into a restricted state that only my old admin protocols could resolve. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply built a quiet safeguard years ago, back when Victor first started sidelining me. A gentle tether. When my access was fully revoked and the primary laptop logged in under a new user, certain critical modules would freeze in protective mode. Not sabotage. Just a lock only I could open. Victor's first message was angry. "What did you do? Call me immediately." I sipped my tea and watched the rain streak the window. More texts flooded in. The junior consultants were panicking. The Anderson team was waiting in the conference room, growing impatient. Victor tried to bluff his way through, blaming technical gremlins. But the clients weren't fools. They had trusted Evergreen because of the reliability I had delivered for years. At 6:12 p.m., Victor called. I let it ring out. His voicemail was clipped. This is unacceptable. Fix it, or there will be consequences. By morning, the damage was clear. The Anderson Group postponed the review indefinitely and began quietly exploring other partners. Internal morale cracked. Two of the new consultants submitted resignations by Friday, citing unstable leadership. Victor called again on Saturday, voice stripped of its usual polish. Listen, I was hasty. We clearly undervalued your role. Come back as a consultant, or even better, we can discuss a senior position. Name your terms. Just unlock the system so we can salvage this. I let the silence stretch before answering softly. You didn't just remove me, Victor. You removed the one person who understood how everything actually worked. That was your choice. He kept talking. Promises, apologies, offers of equity. Empty words from a man who only valued me once I was gone. I didn't unlock anything. I didn't need to. The system would eventually release on its own after 72 hours. But by then, the trust would be broken. 2 weeks later, I started consulting independently. Former clients who had worked with me directly began reaching out. Within a month, I had more steady work than I knew what to do with, at rates that finally reflected the value I brought. One evening, a message arrived from Marcus, a former colleague who had left Evergreen 2 years earlier. Heard what happened. About time someone made him feel the weight. If you ever build something of your own, I'm in. I smiled and opened an old notebook where I had sketched ideas for a simpler, more transparent supply chain tool, one that didn't rely on ego or hidden politics. The real satisfaction wasn't the temporary chaos at Evergreen. It was the quiet realization that I had never been the problem. I had simply been carrying a company that refused to carry me back. And now, for the first time, I was building something that started with respect, for the work and for myself.